Pretty big NBA trade going down. The Los Angeles Clippers trade for Norman Powell and Robert Covington for Justin Winslow, Keon Johnson, Eric Bledsoe, and a 2025 second-round pick. So right here, in terms of fantasy basketball goes, Norman Powell, obviously, and Covington and Eric Bledsoe are going to be the three main factors in this deal. So Norman Powell, he signed in the offseason a big contract to re-sign over here with the Portland Trailblazers. But now the Blazers trade him, and he's having a great season here, Powell. 18.7 points a game, 3.3 rebounds, 2.1 assists, a steal, 2.3 threes a game, and 45% from the field. So right here with this trade, I think Paul George might not come back this season. And you're going to throw Norman Powell right into the starting lineup in major minutes for this Clipper team. And I think his value is going to stay about the same here for this Clipper team. And I like this deal for the Clippers. I know both teams this season pretty much probably going nowhere unless they make a major run in terms of that. And it looks like Portland right now is giving up this season, and Damian Lillard possibly could be out for the rest of the season now if they're going to be tanking for a draft pick and playing for next season. So Powell, great landing spot in Los Angeles. Like I mentioned, Kawhi Leonard, the news came out earlier today that he's probably not going to be back this season. Tyronn Lue said, and he's out for the season. And Paul George, I could even see them benching him. So right here, great landing spot for Powell, and his value will be the same or even better, in my opinion, with the Clippers. Now on to Robert Covington. This season, mediocre year for Covington, 7.6 points a game, 5.7 rebounds, 1.4 assists, 1.5 steals a game, 1.3 blocks, 1.6 threes, and 38% from the field. So Covington, he does a little bit of everything for teams. But fantasy, his value hasn't been all that great this season. I know he gives owners 5-6 categories, but he's not a great scorer of the basketball. His field goal percentage is pretty bad, and even rebounding ain't all that great like it was last season. But right here, I think he fits in well in the Tyronn Lue system. And maybe this Clipper team here, they're switching things over, and maybe they're going to be rebuilding next season around some of these players if Kawhi Leonard opts out of his contract or whatever the case may be. But in Portland, it just wasn't working as well as it was for him in Houston for Robert Covington. So I think here with the Clippers, he fits in pretty well in this system. And he's another guy that should play the same amount of minutes like he was in Portland or even more here for this Clipper team. And now on to Eric Bledsoe. Bledsoe went back to the Clippers in the offseason in a deal. Bledsoe traded once again, and he's an expiring contract anyway. So on the season for Bledsoe, it's been an up and down year, and he's returned to Los Angeles. 9.9 points a game, 3.4 rebounds, 4.2 assists, 1.3 steals, and 42% from the field. So Eric Bledsoe, we know he's a good scoring combo guard throughout his career, but the last couple seasons, the numbers have definitely dropped here. But now with Damian Lillard possibly out for the season, with them tanking, it looks like he's going to step in possibly into that starting role at the point guard position, because they've been going through a few guys over there in Portland to find the guy. I know Simon's been pretty good, but he's been banged up a little. Dennis Smith Jr., he's been getting playing time. But Bledsoe, if he's not going to be a starter, he's at least going to get 25, 30 minutes a game, in my opinion, for this Trailblazer team. So his fantasy value actually takes a bump up in this deal. So right here, it's a good landing spot for the three main pieces in this deal. I think Powell, his value will stay the same, like I mentioned, will be better. Same with Robert Covington. And Bledsoe, I think his value is definitely better. But I also could see this Portland team flip him as well, since he's in an expiring contract before the February 10th deadline. And as the other two players in this deal, Keldon Johnson and Justin Winslow, I don't see much out of them, even though I could see Winslow being in the rotation here for this Portland Trailblazer team, but not a guy who's going to really put up stats. So right here, one of the bigger trades so far this season before the NBA trade deadline. And we're going to start seeing some deals here, but this is a pretty big 5-player deal between the Blazers and the Los Angeles Clippers. And I'll be covering all the trades happening within the next week before the NBA trade deadline. So a good deal here and very good fantasy value for all the players who are mainstays on fantasy teams in this deal.